So your ads are not profitable. You're not getting the leads you want. You're not getting the sales you want. So in this video, I'm going to share 3 psychological frameworks you need to be thinking about, especially when you're advertising to colder traffic, whether that's on Facebook or TikTok, on any of these apps. But this is especially when you're reaching out to colder audiences who don't know who you are. What I want to address though is the fundamentals that people miss. Everyone is too focusing on like AI and trying to optimize, and they forget the other principle that makes a business successful. So you have economics, which is your number or your numbers even. For example, your CAC, your CPLs, your LTV. You have what we know as psychology, the human nature. We're dealing with people, so we must know how they think, what makes them tick, what motivates them, what are their fears, their desires. We need to know these things. So human nature and human psychology is a must. And then we have technology, which is AI. And what you have to understand is you should use technology to speed up your processes. It shouldn't be a tool to replace critical thinking or connecting with customers. So the three-way equation is we have economics, which is your numbers. We have psychology, and we also have technology. And you combine those those 3 even, and you create something great or magical. Now, let's get into the first psychological framework that we're going to discuss today, and that is distance. Now, here's a scenario. So, for example, if you are running cold traffic, and when I say cold traffic, you're getting your customers from a cold audience who don't know who you are or they don't know what you offer. You have to think in your head, where are these customers? Are they ready to buy yet? Because they are not customers who are typing into Google and actually searching or looking for a solution. We have to think that when people are searching, they have a high buying intent. They know their problem. They potentially know the solutions, and now they're looking for the business that has the service or the product to actually get them the results that they want. So obviously, you can be more direct with those kind of customers or that prospect. However, when you are going out to colder audiences who don't know who you are, and you're going on, remember, Facebook and TikTok and all of these, or Instagram, these are social apps where people are on there to stalk their exes, no judgment. People are there to watch memes and share stuff and, post about things. They're not actively looking for a solution. So what you must do is take that into consideration and say, okay, in terms of the buying journey of where that customer is, they're not quite where I want them to be. And people don't make buying decisions. It's not like people are buying pork and beans. People are making investments. So we have to think about, okay, how would they make a decision, or what are the decisions are they making before they actually buy the thing, the product or the service? So quite simply, you have to meet them where they're at. So if people are not actually sat around waiting for your advertisements or your offers or whatever, that means you need to make your approach more indirect. So it's about educating, it's about nurturing. See, I make it simple. What I say is, if, for example, if you're running ads on Google, it needs to be, Google is for harvesting. So you can, show what you offer, say this is what we offer and this is what we can do for you. Whereas when you go to platforms such as Facebook or Instagram, those are more for like planting seeds, nurturing, putting yourself out there, letting people know who you are. So your approach needs to be different when you're going on these platforms. So if it's Google, you can be direct. If it's Facebook, you have to be less direct. And that is where the disconnect happens with a lot of business owners. They put the same offer in front of everyone, and not all customers are equal. And when I say equal, I mean in terms of their intentions. Where are they in the buying decision? We don't just get up and buy stuff. We actually research, we compare. So how can you stand out from everyone else who's just trying to throw offers at people? How you stand out and how you can take over your market share of whatever niche you're in, nurture people, educate people, because what that creates is that reciprocity principle where you're giving first and you're providing value and you're helping them solve a problem. So with that being said, when it's time for them to buy, who do you think they're going to come to? They're going to come to you because they feel that you care about them. And people don't buy until they know you care. So that's something to think about. So I went on a little tangent then. So when it comes to distance, you need to know where your customer is currently at and where you're taking them. And how you shrink that gap is by not asking for too much. So as I said, for cold audiences, you can't expect them to just think that, you can't expect they're gonna just buy from you straight away with an offer. So for example, if you're a service-based business, could you get them a consultation or a free strategy session or give them a free report? You know, any of these things can work, but it's like, just think about all the micro steps that people take before they actually buy something. Find a sort of movable middle where you're not asking too much, where you're shrinking the gap of you're not asking them to, hey, buy my stuff right away. You're just getting them to say micro yeses along the way. So simply put, know the distance you're trying to get the customer to go. Don't get them to go from 1 to 1,000 in just in one swoop. You know, break it down and do it that way. So the second framework we're going to talk about is uncertainty, right? And this is the killers of all conversions. When we're uncertain, we don't do anything. That's where inaction comes. That's where inertia comes. People don't act when they're uncertain. So if your marketing messaging is not clear, they don't know what you offer, they don't know what you actually, how you're going to actually help them, they're not going to actually take the action that you want them to take. You know, if you don't have enough evidence or social proof to say, hey, this thing that I'm saying for you to buy that's going to help you, it actually works. So if people do have any sort of doubts, they're just not going to take the desired action that you want them to take. So how do we counteract this? How do we bypass, how do we demolish people's uncertainty? You give them, for example, here's how you could kill uncertainty. Instead of trying to get people to buy straight away, that's why free trials work so much, or so good even. Do you notice all of these platforms like YouTube and whatever, if you're in software, whatever it is, they get you to try their stuff for like, whether that's 7 days or 2 weeks or a 30-day free trial, get you to try it. What that does is that when you experience all of those benefits, it's gonna be difficult for you to give that up when the trial ends. It's like if you get YouTube Premium, when the trial ends and you go back to all the ads, you're just gonna be like, oh, this is awful. So you more or less wanna keep the subscription. So that's one way to kill uncertainty. Give people free trials. Let them try your stuff. Yes, some people might think, well, that's gonna cost me too much and X, Y, and Z, but we can get creative. That's what business is about, is being creative. How can you get people to try things where they dampen their uncertainty or their skepticism? So free trials, that works great. Another way you can do that is just have irrefutable social proof, where people just, so think of it like this. For social proof, because a lot of people just throw and slap social proof on their landing pages or in their Facebook ads, but this is how people think. They're thinking of every reason to discount what you say. So it's like, even though you provide social proof, people are going to be like, okay, it worked for people like them, but will it work for me? Because everyone think they're a special snowflake, let's be honest. So that's how you got to think that your customer is going to think, oh, it worked for them, but will it work for me? I'm going to give you an example. Let's say somebody is a alcoholic, right? But they're a functioning alcoholic. So, and let's say they're in a good profession. Let's say they're a lawyer, and people in their family have been telling them, hey, you need help, X, Y, and Z. And they're not listening. Finally, they do, right? And then they go to AA, Alcoholic Anonymous, right? And when they go into the meeting, people, we judge a book by the cover. That's just human nature. They go in, but they see people who are, and they listen to people's story. They see people who are, not employed or work for, I don't know, they work in retail. And there's nobody that's a representative of what that actual person is. So there's no lawyers or there's no doctors and all of or anyone in that profession. They're saying to myself, well, these are not people like me. Because a lot of people think like that. They think, okay, because I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, certain people are not in my sort of, tax bracket or in my social class. That's just how people think. Let's just keep it a buck. So they might put themselves into denial if somebody said, no, it actually works. So like, okay, maybe it works for people like who works in retail or who doesn't have a job, but people like me, I'm not like them. That doesn't work for me. So you see how you have to have the right proof in the right context, because people are looking for people. Can this work for me? Yes, this works for those people, but can it work for me? So that is what you need to be thinking about when you are providing social proof. Don't just slap social proof on your marketing messaging. Make sure it's relevant to the person or the target audience that you're facing. And that's why they say to pick one person that you're trying to solve their problem, because if you're trying to solve for everyone, then people are not going to believe that what you offer can actually help them. It's like offering marketing services to chiropractors and also to people in SaaS. The chiropractor is going to think, well, my business is different. This might not work for me. Right. The next one we're going to talk about is the endowment effect. And that's basically when whatever we own, our beliefs, whatever that's material possessions, whatever that's habits, we overestimate their value. So, and what endowment effect does is that people are reluctant to change, and especially if the change is it's not clear, or it seems as it's going to be too much effort, people are not willing to make that change. So when it comes to endowment effect, it costs you a lot of inaction if you're not clear. So how do you overcome the endowment effect that everyone has? Me, you, the next person your neighbor next door, we all have it. We like to stick with what we know. It's that saying is that if it's not broken, let's not fix it. So if you don't have a way to bypass the endowment effect that we all hold, then it's going to be a problem. So how do you do that? The way to do it is burn all bridges. So leave them with no other options but yours. So a good way to do this is, there's a framework that I like from this book by this guy called Evaldo Albuquerque, where he says you need to find whatever your product or your service is, you need to find the one belief, and you need to make it as if there's nothing else. Whatever desires or whatever goals they want to achieve, they can't achieve it without that one belief. So how do you get people to, how do you burn the bridge? To burn all bridges, you say to customers in your messaging, if you want to get X results, this is the new opportunity, and you can only get it using my system. That's how you burn the bridges. Also, what you have to do is also get them to think about the cost of inaction. Like, what will happen to your business if you don't take the step? What will happen to your business if you keep doing things the old way? And you can say, well, X, Y, and Z are using this system and they're getting this X result. And then, you can pit them against their competitors. What will happen with your competitor? Where will they be if you don't adopt the new system and you keep using the old system? So burn their bridges, and also ask them the questions. What is the cost of inaction? And that's how you overcome endowment effect. So bringing it all together, you have the 3 psychological frameworks. So you have distance, and you have uncertainty, and you have the endowment effect. And by making sure you're addressing all of those 3 frameworks, that will make your marketing messaging more compelling. So which one of these psychological frameworks will you apply in your marketing messaging? If you found value in this video, like and subscribe, because I'll be sharing more marketing psychology in my next videos. Peace.